Hi there, guys. It's Brian once again, coming from my beautiful couch, and up with episode 8 of the show that nobody watches, Lists from My Living Room. I've got my powder blues on for the Phillies, throwback. It's the Mike Schmidt. I'm not going to turn around because it's too much trouble. But the Phillies need to win the next two games here in the shortened season of the Nightmare 2020 to be able to even think about the playoffs. And with a bullpen that stinks more than I do after 20 beers, there's just no way. And let's just say right now, Matt Klentak, the GM, should have been fired a long time ago. And even if we get into the playoffs, fire him. Anyway, let's just get on with the show. We're up to episode 8. Episode 8 of Lists from My Living Room. This is an episode that, among the two viewers that I do have, actually somebody requested this one. And knowing that I love this band, and if you look over my shoulder here, you see my beloved bear, Mocha, who has been on every show. And just around him, well, what do you see? You see the Ramones. So this is the Ramones. I love the Ramones immensely. So it was a very difficult list to put together because there are no bad Ramones albums. I can't find any. They don't exist. They're all great. So, the Ramones, let's just talk about them for a few seconds. They are the original punk rock band. Now, you can argue all this stuff about bands that are great. The MC5, who ought to be in the stinking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by now, and shame on them for not putting them in. The Stooges, all those elements, paved the way. The New York Dolls and all these bands that came out where they paved the way for what would become punk rock, but it was the Ramones who took that minimalist kind of sound where you didn't have to be virtuosos on your instrument to be able to make great rock and roll. And the thing about the Ramones is that they were really just kind of a pop band. They loved pop. They loved bubblegum pop. They loved like rock and roll, Chuck Berry and all those bands like Johnny Ramone. His influences were Chuck Berry. Elvis, he loved Elvis. But they put all that kind of together in that sound, and it spawned the explosion, a very short-lived explosion in the 1970s of punk rock, where you had, the Sex Pistols, and you had great bands like The Clash, and you had, The Damned, and you can go on and on and on about the bands. But it was the Ramones who came first. My favorite band of all time is AC/DC. However, the Ramones are really neck and neck with them. All four of the originals are dead, unfortunately. Sadly. But it lives on, and let me just say one thing. All you kids who go out and buy Ramones t-shirts and wear them, and you don't know anything about the music. If everybody who bought a stinking Ramones t-shirt bought an album, these guys would have been bigger than the Beatles. I'm just saying it. Don't wear the shirt if you don't know the band. But who the hell cares what I say? Anyway, let's get down to the list. The Ramones had 14 studio albums. Let's start off with number 14 on the list. Coming in last at number 14 And as I said, there's no bad albums, but we're going to go with Acid Eaters from 1993. Let's get the glare off there for you people. My cat is over here. You might have heard him earlier. Cooper is here. It's good. It's really enjoyable, but I mean, it seems like a lot of bands do these kind of albums where they do cover albums where every song is like an old classic rock song, and there's some people who do them really well, like Ace Frehley, a Kiss he just put out in the last couple of weeks, his Origins Part 2, where he does covers the classic albums. Really good. This one is really interesting. I put it at last on the list because it's not original material, Ramones material, but they picked songs that at least are not the same old thing. It's not Mississippi Queen. It's not, it's not the same old songs. And there's songs where you go, how are the Ramones with their sound going to cover that? Like Journey to the Center of the Mind. Like, Amboy, The Who's Substitute. Shape of Things to Come, Somebody to Love. 7 and 7 Is the classic song by Love. Another great song. My Back Pages by Bob Dylan. They do. Anyway, it's a lot of songs where you go, there's no way they can do My Back Pages. It's great. It's a great version of My Back Pages with CJ Ramone on the vocals. It's good. I like it. But something's got to come in last, as I always say. By the way, I forgot my usual caveat at the start of the show. My list is different from your list. There's going to be stuff on here where you're going to look at it and you're going to say, oh, come on. Well, like, how can you put that ahead of that? How can you? Because it's my list and I put in how I like them. At number 13 from 1989, Brain Drain. Even though there are some songs on here that were kind of, became well-known Ramones songs, I never really was a big. I shouldn't say I'm not a big fan of it, but it's not one that I enjoyed as much as the rest. Even though you had Pet Sematary, the song Pet Sematary ends up on here. The song base, ended up in the Stephen King movie of the Stephen King novel. You get the novelty song Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight, which everybody posts on YouTube every Christmas. I Believe in Miracles, very good. There's a lot of good stuff here. They do a cover of Palisades Park, written by Chuck Barris, who was the great host of The Gong Show, and who created all those crazy old game shows. Rest in peace, Chuck. There's good songs on it. Ignorance is Bliss. Punishment Fits the Crime. I don't play it nearly as much as the others, which is probably why I'm putting it here. Good album, though. So, in 1992, you had a significant event for the Ramones in that Dee Dee was not in the band anymore, and they released Mondo Bizarro. Let me just once again get the glare off the CD. CJ Ramone, right there, came in. Young guy came in, and he replaced Dee Dee, who decided to leave the band. He had tons of problems with drugs and throughout his life and during this time with the Ramones. But Dee Dee was a fantastic songwriter, and he actually writes several of the songs on this album, which end up being sung by CJ. That's a trend that would continue for the rest of their career. It's a little bit of a lighter album, but Poison Heart at 4 minutes and 4 seconds is really one of the longest songs in their catalog. It's okay, but not their best song. But they had, really good songs like Strength to Endure, which is one of the Dee Dee songs that he wrote that were sung by CJ. Main Man, another great song. So it's really Dee Dee's songs are the better songs on this. But Gabby's on Crack, Heidi is a Head Case, a cover of The Doors' Take It As It Comes. It's fun. I don't think Johnny cared much for this album. It's a little more Joey oriented, a little more pop, less punk. And produced by Ed Stasium, so he came back to do that. Yeah, but it's enjoyable, good stuff. From 1987, and I don't know a whole lot of people who really like this one that much, but I liked it a lot when it came out. And that was Halfway to Sanity. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Excuse me. Even though there's really nothing on here that anybody really would recognize unless you're a Ramones fan. I Want to Live. Weaselface, Garden of Serenity, really good song. They do a little bit kind of some hardcore punk tough stuff like I'm Not Jesus. I like Death of Me. You've got Go Little Camaro Go with Debbie Harry from Blondie on it. It's a fun album. It's a fun Ramones album. I enjoyed it. A lot of other fans don't speak incredibly highly of it, but I liked it. Sue me. At number 10 from 1995, and unfortunately the final Ramones album, Adios Amigos. Give them credit. They decided, mostly Johnny Ramone decided, that rock stars shouldn't be playing on stage or doing rock and roll in their 50s and 60s. And even though they did kind of get to their 50s, I said, look, it's time for us to, just end it. We'll leave our legacy and do a final show, and that's it. Here's the album, here's the show, and just go into retirement and do nothing. And so they came out with Adios Amigos. They did the final tour. This is really good, and again, songs written by Dee Dee, who continued to write, sung by mainly CJ, like Scattergun and Making Monsters for My Friends, The Crusher. Really good. But songs like I Don't Want to Grow Up, that was cool. Cretin Family, they do a cover, She Talks to Rainbows. Born and Die in Berlin. Really, really strong album for an album that was their last one, their 14th. A really nice way to go out, I thought. But it left you wanting more, right? And that's the way I think it should be. You know, don't go out on a low note, go out on a high note. That's what I want to do. If I had any highs. Anyway, number 9, 1986. Cool album. Animal Boy. Final album with Richie Ramone on the drums, holding the chimp there. Produced a couple of their better known songs. You had like Somebody Put Something in My Drink, great song. But My Brain Is Hanging Upside Down, which most people refer to as Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. A lot of people who aren't Ramones fans know it because it was in the montage scene of School of Rock. But all these songs are great. You know, Animal Boy, Love Kills, 8-Man Hop, She Belongs to Me, nice little Joey ballady song. Eat That Rat, Freak of Nature, Something to Believe In, another Joey type. And you remember that video for Something to Believe In. That was, you know, I think that was on Ramones Aid. Good album. Great album, actually. I like it. Like it a lot. There's the back. Cool. Now, in 1983, a strange album, but one that I enjoyed a lot and have come to enjoy even more over the years, and that is Subterranean Jungle. Now, at this point when they made this album, Marky Ramone was having a hard time with booze, and he was on the verge of being kicked out of the band, which is almost kind of reflected, they figure, by the fact that, you know, here are the other three, Dee Dee and Joey and Johnny, right? And then they stuck Marky in the window there. But it's a cool album, and it's got, you know, it's got some covers. Ramones did a lot of cover songs on their albums, and I don't think people realize that if you're a casual fan. A little bit of soul was good. But Time Has Come Today, the cover of Time Has Come Today, they do a version of that. That is one of the best cover versions of a song ever. I love it. It's so good. It's better than the original version as far as I'm concerned. But look at these songs. I Need Your Love, Outsider, Somebody Like Me, In the Park, Time Bomb, and then, of course, a classic, Psychotherapy. Song that the video was banned on MTV and banned, I think, on Much Music for a long time. They've since, well, not that anybody's playing music videos anymore, but you can find them on YouTube, of course, but it's so tame, and it's like, why did they ban this? I don't get it. And a song with gotta be the greatest song title in history, Every Time I Eat Vegetables, It Makes Me Think of You. I know, I feel the same way about all the ladies I know. Explains my meteoric rise with women. So let's go to number 7, 1984. Great album. Fantastic album. Too Tough to Die. Great album cover. I love this thing where they're in the tunnel and the light behind them. It's great. it has, it's probably the last Ramones album that had a ton of songs, I think, that wound up in there. Well, no, I can't really say that. It just had a lot of good songs that showed up in their live set for a long time. Look at these songs: "Mama's Boy," "I'm Not Afraid of Life," "Too Tough to Die," "Too Tough to Die." Durango '95. Well, that's an instrumental. Johnny's instrumental, where it started all their shows after this, where they'd play the theme to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and then go into Durango '95. Warthog, Danger Zone, great song. Chasing the Night is kind of a Joey poppy song. Howling at the Moon, another Joey kind of thing. Daytime Dilemma, another one. All good songs, but they're not really that punky. Humankind is a great song. And then Endless Vacation, a Dee hardcore punk thing. It's a lot of times almost overlooked, I think, when Ramones fans talk about their best albums. I find sometimes this one doesn't show up in what they're talking about. I don't know if it's because there's several lighter songs, but it speaks for itself. I think it was a great album. Now, I can already hear Ramones purists gnashing their teeth at this selection, because it is from '77, the Ramones' second album, Leave Home. Another fantastic and classic album jacket. Nice cover. And yes, it has Ramones classics on it. It really does. And it's a fantastic album. I just don't happen to enjoy it as much as the ones I've got ahead of it on this list. But I think maybe that has to do with the production on it. I find is a little weak. The original of this one had the song Carbona, Not Glue, which they ended up having to take off the printings after it, because Carbona was a brand of shoe polish that people would use to huff and sniff, the way people would sniff glue. And so they had a song, and Carbona, I guess, threatened to sue Sire Records. So they removed the song. You can find the song, though, on the re-release CDs, and you can also find a live version of it on Loco Live. But I mean, just look at these songs. They were all staples of, especially their early concerts. Glad to See You Go, Gimme Gimme Shock Treatment, I Remember You, Oh I Love Her So, Sheena's a Punk Rocker. Now, Sheena's a Punk Rocker first showed up on this here, but it's not known from this album. But Susie is a Headbanger, Pinhead, Gabba Gabba Wee, Gabba Wee. You know, the famous Pinhead guy who comes out in the shows. Now I Want to Be a Good Boy, Swallow My Pride, What's Your Game, California Sun, the cover, Commando, You're Gonna Kill That Girl, You Never Should Have Opened That Door. Longest song on this one is What's Your Game? No, sorry, it's Pinhead, 242. And that's attributed a lot to the fact that there's this long thing at the end with the Gabba Gabba, Gabba Gabba. That's where you got the Gabba Gabba Hey stuff from, guys. It's a rock classic. It just happens to not come in higher than 6th on my list, but I wouldn't fault you for putting it anywhere on the list. It's a great album. Here's the number 5 album on my list. It is easily the most controversial Ramones album in the catalog. End of the Century. First thing you notice about this, and you noticed when I was a kid as a Ramones fan, is where are their jackets? Where are the jackets? Well, in the age of the internet, we've seen that they're in this photo shoot. They had the jackets on, and then they decided to tell them to take them off and take some pictures without them, and this is what they ended up using as the album cover. It's just a long list of weird things about End of the Century, produced by Phil Spector and his Wall of Sound. In my opinion, Phil Spector, the most overrated record producer of all time, and turned out he's an incredible scumbag, murdering jerk. Allegedly. No, well, it's not allegedly. He's been sentenced. I think I'm okay legally on this. But the songs on it, even with his horrible tinkering with the sound of the Ramones, you don't need a wall of sound for the Ramones because they were already a wall of sound. Dummy. There's so many legends about this. A lot of them said to be true, about Phil Spector pulling a gun on the band because they didn't want to put strings on Baby I Love You or something. Marky Ramone kind of started his downfall into drinking with Phil Spector all day. Phil making Johnny play the same one note at the beginning of Rock and Roll High School 100 times because he wanted a certain sound. But it is a great album. If you like this album, be sure to get the Rhino re-release that came out, 15, 20 years. It might be 20 years ago now. Where they have versions of the song without Phil Spector's interference, and it's fantastic. But let's just look at these songs. Side 1, Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? Classic. I'm Affected. Incredibly underrated Ramones song. Quite possible, not my favorite Ramones songs, but maybe my second favorite Ramones song, Danny Says. And I run into so many Ramones fans who say the same thing. They love the song Danny Says. Chinese Rock, which was actually titled Chinese Rocks, but they made them name it Chinese Rock on the album cover because it was a drug reference, and this was 1980. Return of Jackie and Judy, it's a callback to another album. Let's go. Baby I Love You, Joey makes it work with his vocals, but it's a Phil Spector thing where he got them to sing like a Ronnie Spector song. I Can't Make It on Time, good. Is Ain't Havana, Rock and Roll High School. I think it's pretty much their best known song. It might have been at one time, but I think maybe now people are I think maybe people know Blitzkrieg Bop only because of the Hey Ho, Let's Go portion, and I Want to Be Sedated. I think I Want to Be Sedated is probably their best known song now, because these have kind of been thrown into video games and into commercials and all these things. I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. All the Way, High Risk Insurance. Great album. Fantastic. I'm so glad that we got a version that also gets rid of Phil Spector. Let's just get rid of Phil Spector, period. He destroyed Let It Be. Alright. Enough. At number 4. I'm probably alone in this, putting this here this high, but I love this album. Pleasant Dreams. I think the album cover is cool, even though people think it's stupid. I love this. If I could find a t-shirt, and I can't, with this on it, I would wear it like every day. But it's an odd choice after end of the century and all the stuff they had to go through with Phil Spector. They got Graham Gouldman from 10cc producing this. I think he, as a producer, maybe influenced some of the guitar sounds on it. It's a little, there's more diversity. There's some solos thrown into it. I don't think Johnny's playing the solos, to be honest with you. I think that's somebody else doing them. But the songs over the years really, they're very pop punk, and they really are good. And again, it's some of the song titles are great, but in terms of the songs, We Want the Airwaves. It's another one where people probably who aren't Ramones fans know it as it is the song playing over the end titles in the movie Airheads, that Brendan Fraser movie, and with who else was in it? Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi. It's a good movie. I love that movie, actually. All's Quiet on the Eastern Front. It's a Dee Dee song. The classic, The KKK Took My Baby Away. Great album, great song title, great song. Stayed in their live set till the end. But there's underrated songs, like even on side 1, the rest of it. Don't Go, You Sound Like You're Sick, It's Not My Place. All good. Side 2, you've got She's a Sensation. 7-Eleven is kind of ballady. It's not really ballady, but it's so good. You know, where Joey has a little kind of spoken part in the song saying, like, oncoming car ran out of control. It crushed my baby and it crushed my soul. It's so good. You didn't mean anything to me. Come on now. This business is killing me. Sitting in my room. Sitting in My Room. One of my favorite underrated Ramones songs. So good. So good. We'll move along so it doesn't get too long. This album at number 3, the one that started it all, the one that truly started the punk movement, one of the greatest album covers of all time, just simply titled Ramones, their self-titled album from 1976. Without this album, you wouldn't have had so many other albums. You wouldn't have had punk. You wouldn't have had hardcore metal, you wouldn't have thrash, that you wouldn't have had any of it, because this is what inspired all those guys to start playing in bands. It's just, everything about it is iconic, and you look at the songs, this was the song where it was just fast and heavy and quick. The longest song on this is 2:35. Most of the songs are under 2 minutes. Well, not most, but half the songs are under 2 minutes. You've got a song here that's 1 minute and 30 seconds. Look at it. Here, let's just look at this track list. Blitzkrieg Bop. Everybody knows Blitzkrieg Bop because, you hear all that. Every sporting event. Beat on the Brat, right? Beat on the Brat with a baseball bat. Judy's a Punk. I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. Nice little sentimental song. Chainsaw. Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue. Another classic. I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement. Side 2. Loudmouth, Havana Affair, Listen to My Heart. Another slower tearjerker. 53rd and 3rd, classic Ramones song. Dee Dee song. Cover of Let's Dance. I Don't Want to Walk Around With You, another Ramones classic. Today Your Love, Tomorrow the World, another enduring Ramones song. It's one of the most important albums in rock history. It's voted quite often as the greatest punk album in rock history. If you don't own it, you don't know. Anyway, number 2 from 1977, and you could make an argument that this one is the best. Rocket to Russia. Once again, another iconic Ramones album cover. This one is Johnny Ramone's, or was Johnny Ramone's favorite album. He used to say it was the best one because it had the most hits. Well, the Ramones never had any hits, let's face it. Like I say, if everybody who bought a t-shirt bought the albums, they would have been the biggest thing ever. But there's probably more songs on this one that remained in their live set than any other album. It's got so many of their classics. Cretin Hop, Rockaway Beach, Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, Locket Love, I Don't Care. Sheena's a Punk Rocker shows up on this one too. So it's on Leave Home. It's also on this one. Sheena's a Punk Rocker is my favorite Ramones song, by the way. We're a Happy Family. Side 2, Teenage Lobotomy. Classic Ramones song. Cover of Do You Want to Dance. Then you got I Want to Be Well, I Can't Give You Anything, Ramona. Surfing Bird. Yes, they do Surfing Bird. And it's cool. Why Is It Always This Way? Okay song, but not their best one. We got the politically incorrect version of The World back in 1977. So they had 2 albums out in 1977. They had this one and they had Leave Home. Once again, it's a must-have if you're a rock fan. It's a must-have if you're a punk fan. It is fantastic. So, brings us down to number 1. Number 1. And it is not just number 1 on my Ramones list, but this album, in terms of my favorite albums of all time, comes in at number 3 all time. Road to Ruin. Love the cartoon art on the front. This was a huge step up in terms of production value for the Ramones. It was their fourth album. It just rocks so much. It is so great. There's the back. Great shot of the four of them on the back. Marky had come in to take over from Tommy on the drums at this point. And I never tire listening to this. And as you see, there's right next to the bear. That's the anniversary edition of the album. So I've got this. I've got it on vinyl. I've got it on CD with the Rhino releases. I've got the special re-release anniversary edition. Just look at these songs. I just want to have something to do. Well, classic song, the song that they enter into the absolutely fantastic album, movie, Rock and Roll High School. The first time you see the Ramones coming in the convertible, they're playing I Just Want to Have Something to Do. But it's relentless. I wanted everything so good. Don't Come Close. I Don't Want You. Needles and Pins, the Sonny Bono song. I'm against it. Side 1 just rocks so hard. Side 2, I Want to Be Sedated. So you all know that song. Go Mental, Questioningly, their best ballad. She's the One, Bad Brain, It's a Long Way Back. Man, just it's there was a no doubt this was going to be number 1 on this list. It's quite possibly the album I've listened to most in my life, which makes you wonder, well, why isn't number 1 on your list? Well, that's the way it kind of goes, but so good. Produced by Tommy Ramone and Ed Stasium. Tommy had left the band, but he continued to produce. So, there you go. It's the Ramones. I hope I was able to do it justice. This is kind of long, but when you are into a band as much as this, you kind of want to elaborate on stuff. We will see when the next one will come up. I try to do one every 2 weeks. I've been a little lax again. It's been, I think, 3 since I released the last one. But, as I say every time, no one's watching these anyway. So, hopefully be back in a couple of weeks with a new episode. So until then, stay safe from the virus and keep rocking.